The Hammer and the Anvil song. Wolfid found Alina in the forge, sipping a glass of lemonade. The place wasn't very busy, it was the middle of the afternoon, so she bought herself an orange juice and joined her friend leaning against the bar. "What are we doing?" she asked. "People watching," replied Alina, and inclined her head towards one of the tables where a small group was engaged in animated conversation. "Ah, what have I missed?" "I'm not entirely sure. It's either a pair of highborn apothecaries looking to trade their healing potions with 3 corsairs, or it's a trio of corsairs with more welt silver than they know what to do with, who aren't sure what the potions are worth." The conversation became even more energetic. Voices were raised. "That's a Sarcophan accent," said Wolfid. "So I think that means your highborn apothecaries are actually Cruden cannon narcotics traders." One of the groups stood up and pulled a short blade, and within a moment there were weapons in several hands. The barwoman leant over, furiously gesturing. "If you're going to do that, take it outside!" There were muttered apologies and everybody settled down again. But before the hubbub entirely died away, a pair of Dornish yeofolk carrying a strongbox came in, accompanied by 4 nobles of various houses, and an obvious Assavean. When they saw the Sarcophan and the corsairs, everyone started shouting at once. Alina finished her lemonade, put the glass on the bar, and stepped forward with her hands up to try and settle the dispute down. Wilfrid caught the barwoman's eye. "Does this kind of thing happen often?" The barwoman sighed. A long, suffering sigh. "Often enough that I think we ought to start charging a percentage of deals done. Or at least getting them to set up some kind of roster so this kind of thing doesn't keep happening." A concoctions market. During the winter solstice, apothecaries from Faradon and Axos are visiting Anvil to sell their unique wares. They plan to arrange a small market outside the forge starting at 2 p.m. on Saturday. During the autumn equinox, a small group of Faradon traders visited Anvil. Representing one of the wealthy merchant families, they brought with them a number of unique concoctions with narcotic properties. And by all accounts, they did quite well out of the visit. This season, they've apparently returned to see about selling more of their stock and perhaps even arranging something more permanent. When they arrive at Anvil, a week before the winter solstice, they're apparently not alone. It's not clear how it happened, but they've been joined by a small number of Aksu traders from the tunnels of Caban, who are by all accounts in a similar line of business. Together, they've announced that they'll be operating a small market outside the forge on Saturday afternoon, intending to remain until all their stock is sold. The Faradon traders have suggested that anyone who wishes to know more may speak to Sagrama Izaiden of the New Promise Cartel, with whom they apparently did some excellent business during their last trip to Anvil. The Aksu, for their part, have been a little standoffish, apart from to mention that as well as traders, they're also keen to speak to Imperial apothecaries, should any be interested in attending. An exchange of pride. Leofred the Deft will facilitate an exchange of crafts over the coming season. They'll be at the hub from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on Friday. Wintermark runesmith Leofred the Deft proposes an exchange of crafts between citizens as a demonstration of the Empire's pride in its crafters. They claim that although the Empire readily recognises the skill of its artisans, especially those of a warlike mien, those who labour to create fine crafts and beautiful art sometimes fail to get the fair acknowledgement that they deserve. As such, they're calling for Imperial citizens who take pride in their crafting abilities to join an exchange of creations over the coming season. At the spring equinox, each participant who provides a piece of art, craft or similar endeavour will in turn receive another participant's creation, a token of recognition from Leofred themselves. The runesmith hopes to meet with anyone interested in taking part or learning more about the exchange on Friday of the summit at the hub. They'll be there from 6:30 until 7:30. There's no need to bring anything to this meeting. It's as much for Leofred to explain the details and gauge interest as anything else. Game information. Leofred is looking to arrange an exchange of physical objects, not ribboned items necessarily, but examples of arts and crafts made by players themselves in character. An auction of opportunity. Basilius Flint offers a chance for Imperials to play a game of cunning and curses during the spring equinox. Invitations to the game are strictly limited, but the Eternal plans to make 3 of them available during the winter solstice. A herald named Brazen is hoping to meet representatives of Anvil's auction houses to discuss the sale of the invitations. Heralds from the City of Locks have announced that the Prince of the Black Vaults intends to run a game of Cunning and Curses during the spring equinox. There are only 7 places available at the table, and the winner's prize will include the opportunity to act as Basilius Flint's representative to the Empire for a year. The details of the game, which is a contest really, haven't been released. The players will not need to be magicians themselves, but they will need to be capable of reaching the Hall of Worlds, either under their own steam or via methods such as the Pauper's Key or Ambassadorial Gatekeeper. 4 of the places at the game will be by invitation to contestants hand-picked by Basilius Flint themselves. The other 3, however, the Eternal intends to be wild cards. As such, they've dispatched one of their agents, the Herald Brazen, to find someone, or multiple someones, to handle these invitations on their behalf. Brazen will apparently arrive at Anvil around 7 o'clock in the evening on Friday. They wish to meet representatives of the new auction houses of Anvil, which they understand to have risen to prominence in the wake of the announcements about the Bourse public auction. They're keen to ensure that the invitations fetch a good price and wish to see which auction house can promise them the best deal, with the understanding that if all goes well, this may lead to further business, not only from the City of Locks, but potentially from the other cities in the Autumn Realm. A blade from the past. Vesela Lechovic is coming to Anvil to sell a sword apparently used during the Freedom Heresy. The Varushkan trader will be arriving at the summit on Friday at 10 o'clock in the evening. Vesela Lechovic is a Varushkan warden recently returned from the Forest of Ulnak, finally having completed their 2 years of service with the Golden Axe. Whilst fighting in the Druge territory, he came into possession of a sword that he describes as possessing a distinct spiritual aura on it, perhaps even a hitherto unknown halo. For various reasons, the Warden believes that the sword was a weapon used during the Freedom Heresy, and he's attending the upcoming summit to find someone who wants to own a piece of history. If he is correct, then it seems likely that the spiritual aura is unlikely to be a mere halo. The result of such a ceremony would have faded long ago, unless, of course, it was created with true Liao. Vesela is expected to arrive at Anvil around 10 o'clock on Friday evening, heading for the hub. He will first want to secure a practitioner of day magic capable of performing the Skein of Years on the sword, who is prepared to confirm its provenance, and then perhaps an adept of autumn magic as well to divine any unique circumstances that surround the item's creation. Once he's secured signed provenances from such individuals, he intends to discuss the auction of the sword with representatives of the independent auction houses. He's in no doubt that a relic of such significance, a part of Imperial history, will certainly attract attention that should prove invaluable in establishing the reputation of such an endeavour. An Enchanter of Lie. A noble and their yo-folk will be visiting Anvil to offer goods and services in exchange for Beggar's Lie. They will be arriving at the Imperial Regio at 5 o'clock. Displaced from Dawnguard by the Druge, the Decoyne fortunes are very much on the wane, it seems, although few would be rude enough to point that out. What remains of the house is apparently sheltering in Ulvenholm, essentially camping out in pavilions and tents halfway between Arnett and the pits of Breichel. A noble of the house, the witch Sir Severlan Decoyne, has announced that they intend to attend Anvil during the winter solstice, not for politics, but for an opportunity to take in some of the sights, meet their fellows, catch up on current events, and the like. Coincidentally, they'll be accompanied by a couple of yo-folk, including one of the Decoyne seneschals, Robin Counter. Counter has let it be known that they are bringing certain treasures that might be of interest to practitioners of summer magic. Specifically, Counter wishes to trade 3 talismans, magical foci that empower ritual magicians who are performing Raise the Standard of War and clad in golden raiment. The foci are reasonably unique, but rather than money, Counter's interested in trading them for a significant amount of Beggar's Lie. Indeed, so rare are these talismans that Counter expects at least 20 lie for each one, more if there's sufficient interest. In addition to the foci, Counter says that they will provide 3 performances of Raise the Standard of War on the first 3 military captains who can pay the asking price of 15 measures of Beggar's Lie. The Decoyne Witches will provide all the mana. The captains need merely turn up with their resources. Given Sir Severlan has expressed an interest in observing some rituals at the Imperial Regio, Counter has proposed killing 2 birds with 1 arrow. The party will be at the Regio at 5 in the afternoon on Saturday, with the party retiring to the Forge after their business is concluded, and thence perhaps to the Dornish camp for an hour or so. Sir Severlan is particularly interested in meeting Lady Izette, the Mournful. Robbing Counter reminds anyone interested in securing the foci or the rituals that under no circumstances should they bother Sir Severlan about them. They're to deal with the Seneschal only. At the Bourse. During the winter solstice, the Empire's weirwood seats are available for appointment. During the winter solstice, the Empire's weirwood Bourse seats are available for appointment. There are 7 such seats under Imperial control at the moment. 6 of them are Imperial in nature and 1 belongs to the Navarre nation. Imperial Auction. The public auction takes place at 3 in the afternoon on Saturday at the Senate building. The 6 Imperial seats, Canterspire Circle, the Great Forest at Rykos, the Golden Trees of Seren, the Heartwood of the Great Vale, the Hunt of Alderey the Fair, and the Weirwater Vales, will be auctioned. Any Imperial citizen can hold such a title if they can raise sufficient capital. On an out-of-character note, each seat has a page on the wiki that includes details of how much they were auctioned for during previous events. In addition to the weirwood seats, the prime factor of the Palace Docks, which is a ministry that imports weirwood from the Principalities of Yarm, is also due to be auctioned to the highest bidder. Both bearer of an Imperial Wayleave titles, special Imperial titles that allow the holder to commission a sinecure, ministry or great work before the end of the solstice, will be offered for auction. And finally, the public auction will also see the prosperity dose of True Liao auctioned, with all funds raised going to the Imperial Synod Virtue Fund. Tally of the votes. The tally of the votes begins on Saturday morning and closes on Saturday afternoon. Any eligible citizen can cast their vote by finding an agent of the Bourse in the civil service hub near the centre of Anvil. In addition to the Imperial positions offered for public auction, there are a number of national positions that are available to be appointed during the coming summit. In each case, any citizen who controls an appropriate personal resource is eligible to cast their vote for their preferred candidate. Voting opens on Saturday morning and closes Saturday afternoon around 4 p.m, shortly after the auction of the seats is completed. 1 national Bourse seat is due to be appointed this season. Navarre herb garden owners have the opportunity to determine who will control the thimble for the coming year. In addition to the weirwood seat, this winter will see the appointment of the Bailiff of the Grand Market and the Steward of Goodleaf Gardens by Marcher citizens who hold farm resources. Both Warden of the Trees and Hills and Overseer of the Westwood Road by Varushkan citizens who own either mines or forests, and 4 Seasons Boneweaver elected by Imperial Orc citizens. In the latter case, the Imperial Orc must control a military unit, and the number of votes they receive depends not only on the size of a unit, but on how many times it has supported an Imperial army in the last year. In each case, any Imperial citizen of the appropriate nation can be appointed to hold the title, not just those eligible to vote.